Sports fanatics, gambling addicts, betting bros, pick-gum pros, calling all dollar-chasing degenerates. Hello and welcome to Peachtree Bets. I'm Devin, and if you're like me, you know the thrill of analyzing matchups, crunching the numbers, and placing smart bets to come out on top. Whether you're a seasoned bettor or just starting to dip your toes into the world of sports betting, this is the place to be. Our mission here at Peachtree Bets is simple: to help you bet smarter and win bigger. In today's video, I'll be breaking down 10 bets for the NFL Week 8, giving you insight into why I chose them, and sharing some of the key factors that influenced my decisions. Sports betting isn't about luck, it's about knowledge, strategy, and understanding the trends. Based out of Atlanta, Georgia, we will be focusing on pick-em entries on the PrizePicks platform. New users can use my code to get $50 in free credit. And I'll also get 25. That's PRYT7NK18. Much appreciated. Before we get started, bet responsibly. Okay, only put down what you're willing to lose. Don't bet your rent money, and don't quit your day job. All right, so let's dive in and walk through the mindset behind each of these picks so that you can approach your next bet with confidence. First up, we have 6 picks at $5. It's a flex play to win a maximum $195. All right, most of my picks are going to be 6 picks. And I'm using different strategies here, and we'll go over them one at a time. But the goal is to get our multiplier for the payout to be as high as possible while still having relatively safe bets. And you can see that some of these are red faces and some of them are green faces. And if they don't have a face, then it's somewhere in the middle. But green meaning more likely, red meaning less likely, according to the sports books, which inversely affects the payout odds. So you want more red faces to get higher odds, while the green faces give you lower odds, but a higher chance to hit. And a good combination of them can get you somewhere in the middle. So here, that's what we see. We're going to go with Cooper Kupp. He's going to be out on the field after being out for many weeks. And when we did see him last on the field, we know that he was producing like 30 fantasy points. I don't have all the numbers in front of me, but a lot of this is just going to be from a big braining the game script and how we think things are going to go. So in this case, we know that Cooper Kupp is going to be getting targets. Stafford's been struggling. The other receivers aren't doing a good job. And on top of that, there's trade rumors that are flying around. Kupp might be going to another team, so this is a great opportunity to show off his skills and to get the highest dollar for him when that trade negotiation is going down. Next, we have A.J. Brown and Ja'Marr Chase and DJ Moore. We're not going to overthink this too much. These 3 are almost locked and loaded every week for me, and especially with the matchups that we've got, these receivers are the number 1 targets for their teams, and they're just incredible. Not only that, but they've got reliable quarterbacks behind them, strong offenses in general, so good to go there. I like the fact that they're red-faced because to me, Ja'Marr Chase getting a touchdown does not seem unlikely. So the fact that I'm getting a payout that is associated with an unlikely event is really great. You know, this is where we want to identify somewhere in the sports books that we disagree and we want to go against Vegas. So in this case, I like these picks. And then at the bottom, we're going to balance that out just a little bit. We're going to go with Saquon Barkley and Kyren Williams, who have been consistently, week to week, getting into the end zone for their teams. And as you can see, green faces, it's probably going to happen. And that's just going to help us out here. 6 hits is going to give us $195. 5 hits will get us a little bit less. And 4 will get us half of our money back. So that's great. Next up, we have 6 picks to pay $150 with a $5 bet. This is different than the last bet, where most of them have no face, and in addition, we're not just going all touchdowns. We're going to go on the other side of things and try to play it a little bit more safe, where the end zone can be riskier, whereas we know that some of these players are going to be getting consistent usage. Yards, targets, those types of bets. They're not usually red skulled unless you want to really push up the yard line, but we can still try to, if we feel like this is a safe bet as a baseline, instead of just swinging for the fences on all of our bets, we're going to try to go with one that we think is very safe to just ensure that we get a win and get our money back at a minimum. Cover our floor. That's what this is about. Number one, we've got Breece Hall, okay? The entire situation has changed for Breece Hall. The first couple of weeks, people were scared. His production was at a low, and I was able to capitalize that in my fantasy league and make a trade for him right when they fired their head coach at the risk of maybe things are going to change. And things did change. They have put him as their RB1 and are feeding him targets. That's probably the riskier part here, is that he is receiving the ball. We've got Aaron Rodgers, who loves to throw it, so having him as a check down is wonderful. But this matchup against New England, chances are, with New England not having a great offense, not having the best defense, the Jets could get ahead. And in the second half, they could lean on the run to drain the clock. And that's where we could see a lot of these rushing yards. So I feel confident that Breece Hall is going to reach his yardage. The next one we've got is Joe Mixon. Again, seeing very heavy usage in his offense. And as well, we're going up against an Indiana Colts defense that is not great. And we're just going to try to go with the general production momentum that Mixon has here. And I don't have all of the stat lines to break down every reason that I feel confident with Mixon, but I do. And that's why I chose him. So sorry, there's not a great explanation on that one. We're just going to move on to Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp. Okay, so here we already chose him for touchdowns, but, you know, what if he doesn't get his touchdown? I don't know. Like, this is a safe bet. Like I said, we know he's going to get targets, and he's probably going to catch those targets and convert them into receptions. He's going to be the number one read for Matthew Stafford. So, I have confidence, full confidence, he's going to go over on his reception line. That's why we've got him here. Amari Cooper. Again, we're going with some of this big brain, game script thoughts. He just got traded to Buffalo. They needed a good receiver one. They're leaning on him. They're going to try to use him. Why would you trade for somebody and not feed him the ball? More on that later. But that's why we're picking Amari Cooper here. Okay? Amari Cooper, 55.5 receiving yards against Seattle, which we know is going to be putting up some strong offense. Geno Smith, he's just been doing it. And that means that on the other side, Buffalo may be having to rely on throwing that ball, especially in the second half, playing from behind. So Amari Cooper is going to be that first read. We're going to go with him. Again, Matthew Stafford for an interception. I mean, I don't want to wish this on anyone, but it happens. And he's going to be trying to force the ball possibly into some situations that might be difficult. We've also got a Minnesota defense that is just spectacular. I mean, arguably the best in the league. So the chances that they get one over on him, you know, I'm just going to go with that. And I'm going to add in down here DJ Moore for a touchdown. He's one of my favorite touchdown picks. And adding a red skull in here is just going to boost our payout a little bit. Having that touchdown pick is going to... It's... For him specifically, it's because you've got Caleb Williams. The last time that they played, DJ Moore was only half a yard short of catching what would have been Caleb Williams' 5th touchdown of the game. And he's going up against Washington. You've got Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams. It's like battle of the rookie quarterbacks, okay? They're going to be trying to show off. They're trying to launch the ball because while Daniels has that run option, that's not Caleb's thing. So I see DJ Moore being that tried and true number one target, getting into the end zone this week. We're going to put him on this line. Next up, we've got 6 picks for $125 with a $5 flex play. Now, this is going along the same line of thinking as the last bet, where in this case, nothing has a face, so it's just an average bet as far as payouts would go. And this is an attempt to cover our floor and try to ensure that we hit at least 5 out of 6. All right, and combine this with the 5 out of 6 in the last one, and that should cover all of our bets, even if we weren't to hit anything. So taking a strategy like this to cover the floor, we're going to start off with Bijan Robinson. Okay, Bijan, just like Breece Hall in the last bet, struggled in the first couple of weeks. Some people were losing some of their confidence. I also tried to trade for him, but because I knew that things would turn around, and things did turn around. We've seen a lot of production from Bijan, and I believe that we're going to continue to see production from Bijan, especially if the game against Tampa Bay this week looks like the game that we had against them a couple of weeks ago, and it's obviously going to look way different given the injuries that are going on in Tampa Bay. I mean, that alone, we add that into our game script thinking here, and just like with Joe Mixon below us, both of those offenses have an opportunity to get ahead and lean on the run in the second half in order to drain the clock, and these are the guys that are going to be doing that. So I like having them on the over for their rush yards this week. So moving on to Matthew Stafford, we're going to add him with the interception in here. Same thought process. Minnesota defense, he's trying to force it to Cooper Kupp. It could happen. We're getting Cooper Kupp on those receptions because, again, I feel like this is one of the safest bets that you could even find. One of the safest picks, period. More than 6.5 receptions. That's a gold piece right there. Little nugget. And moving on from there, Brock Bowers. Now, in this case, instead of going for the touchdown, which you'll see in another bet, we're going to go for the receiving yards because Brock Bowers is essentially a wide receiver in this Las Vegas offense where the Raiders have traded away Davante Adams. They have an injury at quarterback, and there's just a lot struggling here. So they are building their offense currently around Alexander Mattison as their running back and Brock Bowers as their tight end acting as a wide receiver. I mean, you're going to see multiple tight ends out there blocking for him so they can try to get an opportunity. They're going to feed him the ball. So I see him definitely hitting those yards against a Kansas City defense who just happens to be allowing the most points to the tight end position from a fantasy perspective, which is just a general indication of production. So I feel confident with Bowers. And then on from that, we've got George Pickens for yardage, because if you paid attention to anything with the Steelers last week, they put Russ Wilson in, and he's got that moon ball. That's what you heard from the broadcasters. Moon ball. All right? But it is impressive. We saw a lot of production from Pickens. I expect to see that continue because that is why they put Russ in. I wish I would have made a video on some of the thoughts I had going into last week because all of that was plain as day. But here we are this week, and I feel like they're going to continue to give Pickens that ball. Our next pick is 6 picks to pay out for $300 on a $5 flex play. We have a taco icon here because I put this in on Taco Tuesday, where they lowered the expected yardage line for Justin Jefferson as a little treat for all of the users, an opportunity to get in on a better line. So I decided to add that because I feel like Justin Jefferson will hit over 59.5 yards while they'll be facing the LA Rams. We've got Cooper Kupp, who could potentially be putting up some points against them, and Minnesota, Justin Jefferson's their first read, wide receiver 1 there. So although he might not be necessarily the end zone target, we could see a lot of opportunities. They've got a great offense and lots of different people it could go to. I do see the yardage being a safe bet. So we're going to add on to that, and we're going to go with some red faces here that I feel are a combination of safe and risky for payout. And with Brian Thomas against Green Bay, a little bit of risk there, but I believe in my guy, Brian Thomas. He has just performed so well against any of the defenses, any of the cornerbacks. He is just so explosive, so fast. If you caught that meme of him running away from a defender a few weeks ago who jumped out completely parallel to the ground, diving for him, it was hilarious. And I hope to see great things from him. I want to see him hit the end zone. So against Green Bay, where they're going to be fighting hard, Trevor Lawrence is going to be looking to Brian Thomas, I think more than Christian Kirk, in that end zone role. He also has that big play, broken play opportunity. So we're going to go there. The next one is a much more risky. It's Tucker Kraft. And if you think about Green Bay, Jordan Love has so many targets he could go to. This one is, my thought here was, all right, tight end, red face touchdowns are generally, they give a high payout, a higher payout than a red face wide receiver touchdown. None of these are the same, and they don't really show you until you start clicking and creating your combos. But by looking at it, I wanted to get the extra payout multiplier from Tucker Kraft because there is a chance that he does end up being someone that they trust in an end zone role. He might not be the guy that's pushing them down the field for all that massive yardage and massive targets, but we do see tight end usage in the end zone very often. It's happened before, hasn't happened in a couple of weeks, but even if it doesn't happen, the fact that I added him to this line pushes that payout multiplier up so that even my 5 out of 6 payout is still higher than it would have been with like a wide receiver option in here. So this is a gamble. This one's a little bit more swinging for the fancy, but put Kraft in there as a gamble for that high payout. Next, A.J. Brown. This one, complete opposite, right? We know A.J. Brown. We know Hurts. Number 1 target. Consistent usage. He's a superstar, so we're going to go with him. It happens almost every week. He's almost lock and loaded on any given week. The fact that he's got a red face here, I just don't understand. But I'm going to take it, and I'm going to add him here. In addition, we've got Ja'Marr Chase, who did earlier, and you'll notice that these betting lines change as the week goes on. When he first was posted, had a higher payout with a red face. In this particular line, he does not have that higher payout, but we still feel confident in Ja'Marr Chase at a standard payout. We're going to add him to the line because we know that he hits the end zone all the time. He's just a boss. If you've seen him play, if you haven't, you need to. All right, Cooper Kupp. Again, we've seen this one. We've talked about it. He's going to get those receptions. I decided to get one more Taco Tuesday entry in here with a 6-pick out for only $160. You can see the payouts of that tight end almost doubled compared to this one, where this is much safer with only 1 red skull. We've got $5 down on Cooper Kupp hitting receptions. We've talked about that. We know Justin Jefferson's going to get those yards. Brian Thomas, we're going to, instead of counting on him like in the previous bet for a touchdown, we're going to also play the other side, which he could do both, but we're also going to feel confident that he's going to hit his yardage. He's going to get that usage against Green Bay, where Trevor Lawrence is going to be fighting hard. Okay, George Pickens. We're picking Pickens because we've got Russ, and that moon ball, he's going to be launching it. Number 1 target, locked and loaded. Okay, at least for now. We'll see if anything changes, but for now, it's looking great. Najee Harris, again, things have really opened up with production for him, not having Justin Fields as the quarterback, because Fields was able to take away some of those run option reads that he could, throw the ball, run the ball, whereas Russ is not going to run the ball. So if they feel like they want to, we're going to see a lot more production from Harris against the Giants, who, I didn't mention on this before, but all these matchups against the Giants, they just got smashed last week. So let's see if they're going to get smashed again this week. T. Higgins, just like Ja'Marr Chase. I mean, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, or wide receiver 1A, 1B. I don't know. That's kind of debatable, especially because you have to double cover or put significant coverage on Chase over Higgins, because if you just put Chase in man coverage, he's going to beat his man every time. So that artificially or it just brings the value and opportunity of Higgins up to that 1B role, in my opinion. So I've got him in there for a touchdown, just as likely as Ja'Marr Chase, in my opinion. Kind of a coin flip between the two of them, but almost guaranteed that one of the two is going to be in the end zone every single week, if not both of them. Next up, we've got $5 down to win $125. We're going to put some Cole Kmet in this lineup, who's been seeing so much usage. It says 37.5 receiving yards, which might seem kind of scary for a tight end. But if you look at the chart for him, he's been consistently getting that yardage. So we're going to go and say that he does against Washington, where, like I said, Caleb Williams is going to be fighting, and he's going to be using every option on that offense. He's been using Kmet. I see him getting some targets. I see him getting some yards. We're going to put him in there for that line. Next up, Javonte Williams against a Carolina offense and defense, just a team in general that's just one of the worst in the NFL. So we've seen teams steamroll them over and over. And if you look at what's going on with Williams, he had a great week last week. And I think that he's going to continue to have a good week this week, because with some of those game script ideas, I feel like Denver's going to get ahead. They're going to be leaning on this run. They're starting Bryce Young again. And I don't expect Bryce Young to bring this offense bouncing back. I don't know what's going to happen with Carolina, but I do see Javonte Williams getting over 54.5 rush yards. I do believe that line has gone up since I put this in, but still, I think it's at 60-something now. I would probably still go over on his line. All right, Bijan Robinson. We already talked about him, 67.5, added him in. 2 running backs that we feel are going to get heavy usage this week to help keep this bet consistent. Travis Kelce, the number 1 target in Kansas City right now for Mahomes. We've got DeAndre Hopkins, who just got traded over there. We got injuries to Juju. We got Xavier Worthy, of course, but, he doesn't see heavy usage. Travis Kelce is the number 1 read right now. And maybe that'll change depending on what's going on, but right now I feel very confident he's going to see his yardage. Brock Bowers, we already talked about him. Basically a wide receiver tight end. He's going to get his yardage. And George Pickens, again, against the Giants. Moving on to the Thursday picks. On Thursday, we get all of the Sunday games loaded into the app so that we can choose from them. And that opens up more opportunities for bets. So I go back to a home run pick, 6 picks for $475, putting $5 down. And here we're going to do all touchdowns. And we've got DJ Moore, which we've already spoken on. Number 1 target for Chicago, locked and loaded. Devontae Adams. Here we go with one of those game script picks where we know Devontae Adams just got traded over to the Jets and they want to use him. It didn't quite work out last week. So while if you looked and I chose this last week and it didn't happen, this is one of those situations where I don't see that as being a bad bet, okay? If you have an 80% chance that something's going to happen, that's not guaranteed. If you only have a small sample size of doing it once, you might hit in that 20% and fail. And that might look like a failure. But over a larger sample size, you're not going to see that case. If you've got an 80% chance to win over a larger sample size, you should win. So sometimes you lose, it happens, we're going to roll with that punch, and instead, we're going to take that energy into the next week where we think Devontae Adams, he didn't get those targets, he dropped some balls, it didn't work out for him last week, but this week against New England, who is struggling, we're gonna trust it. We're going to trust Devontae Adams, we're going to think Aaron Rodgers is trying to get him a statement touchdown to make a statement for the Jets on why Davante Adams was a good choice for that team. Okay, next we've got Brian Robinson Jr., who, as a running back for Washington, has been steamrolling any team he goes up against. As long as he's not hurt, he should be on your fantasy roster. And in this case, with a red-faced touchdown option, I think he's going to get into the end zone. On top of that, last week, we still don't know if Jayden Daniels is going to start. For the sake of my fantasy team, I'd hope that he does, but we don't know. So you're not seeing me put money down on Scary Terry getting into the end zone, although I hope that he does. I think in this case, we're going to put our money down on the running back getting into the end zone because it's a higher opportunity if Jayden Daniels isn't in the game that Robinson ends up into the end zone. But even with Daniels in the game, he's finding it anyways. So just great option there. George Pickens for a touchdown. Again, we got that moon ball against the Giants. They're trying to make some statements there. They made it last week. We think we're going to continue making it this week. Cooper Kupp, I have a feeling he's going to get maybe 2 touchdowns. They're going to use him so heavy this week. I'm really excited for this game. And Brock Bowers. This one's risky because Brock Bowers has not been getting into the end zone. But Kansas City allowing the most points to tight ends, and with Brock Bowers being like the number 1 receiving option and them game scheming that entire offense, it's just inevitable that it's going to happen. Okay, so again, this is a big swing for the fences. It's not a guaranteed bet, but this is a likely bet. If we think about these situations, a lot of these things could line up for us, and if they all line up, that's $475. So I like it. With $5 down, I'm loving it. Next up, we have our game script pick of the week. And in this case, we have 6 picks to pay out $235 with, again, $5 down. That is the minimum bet, and I like going with these small bets because if you want to win big, you've got 2 options. You could place a high stake at low odds, or you could place a low stake at high odds. And it's hard for me, and in general, to find those really confident low odds. So in that case, there's a much higher risk with a small sample size. So if you're not willing to continuously put up big money and know that in the long term, it will pay out, in the short term, much riskier. So this strategy that I'm employing places low stakes at high odds. We're looking for undervalued and overvalued entries. And this is the lowest risk at any sample size, and it still, in general, will perform better over a larger sample size. Okay, let's go on. We've got our game script pick of the week. This is Davante Adams, George Pickens, Cooper Kupp hitting the end zone because we know, I feel like these teams are trying to make statements with these players. A lot of energy, a lot of focus there. So this week specifically, I love these 3. I'm going to bundle them together with a couple of safe options. J.K. Dobbins, he's been doing it very regularly. And in this case, I like him specifically against New Orleans, who doesn't have Derek Carr and is just, has injuries all over the place. This team is struggling so bad right now. So I'm loving Dobbins because, again, especially if the Chargers do get ahead, then again, you're leaning on the running back. And the running back has been their best option because their receiving game, just their passing game, just hasn't been lining up. Did work out pretty good last week, but who's to know what's happening from a week to week? In this particular case, we're going to go with Dobbins getting in the end zone. We're going to go with Kenneth Walker finding the end zone because against Buffalo, who has one of the worst defenses against the run, and in general, Kenneth Walker is just on fire right now. We are going to ride that wave and continue going with Kenneth Walker. And again, Javonte Williams against Carolina, whose defense is also terrible, and he's heating up. So we're going to hope that he hits his touchdown this week as well. Continuing, we have 6 picks to pay out $320 with $5 down. First, we're going to choose George Pickens. I'm big on him this week. I see a lot of momentum going in his direction. And we have a red face, which means a higher payout for him. I think that in general, he is undervalued. And we're going to think that he gets into the end zone with this New York Giants team who, again, just got stomped last week. So let's see if Russ can keep it up. Let's see if Pickens can make it there. Kenneth Walker and Javonte Williams is some safe bets this week as far as finding the end zone. Ladd McConkey. Now, in the last pick, we had chosen J.K. Dobbins. And in this case, we're kind of covering the other side of things. We also chose Devontae Adams. Here, we're going to choose Garrett Wilson because it's kind of like, if one doesn't find the end zone, then the other will. And it helps cover our bases so that if one of these doesn't hit, then maybe the other will. And we also have an opportunity for both of them to hit. All of these people could find the end zone this week. So Ladd McConkey, he's an excellent player, and he's ramping up in his usage. I think he's going to have a big game because we're playing against New Orleans. So this could be the opportunity for the Chargers to really showcase Ladd McConkey because they haven't been able to really get him too successful this year. Garrett Wilson is the second read option for this Jets offense, which is very pass heavy. So I do feel like if Devonta Williams, if everyone's thinking what I'm thinking, and that Aaron Rodgers is going to try to give that ball to Devontae Adams in the end zone, then he could be double covered, leaving Wilson open as the second read. So that's the thought process there. Caleb Williams for 2 touchdowns because I think he's going to be trying to show out in his rookie-to-rookie head-to-head, as long as Daniels plays, against Washington. All right, now last up we have 6 picks to pay $195. This is a kicker-only pick where I decided to go through and put $5 down that some of these terrible offenses or just struggling teams in general are not going to quite get to the end zone, but are still going to try to put some points on the board. And all of these happen to have high payouts with those red faces. So you see, we've got Arizona, New Orleans, Carolina, Las Vegas, the Browns, and New England. I mean, like I said, all of these teams are struggling right now. So let's see how this one goes. I like it. It's going to be fun. Let's go. And there you have it. My top 10 bets for the NFL Week 8. Remember, betting is all about strategy, research, and managing your risks. It's not just about picking your favorite team or your favorite player. It's about finding the edge, using data, and staying disciplined. Here at Peachtree Bets, we are not just about placing bets. We're about placing smart bets. Now make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, follow us on social media to get more insights, picks, and analysis. And don't forget, let me know in the comments what you think about these picks and share some of your own. Good luck out there, and as always, bet smarter, win bigger. See you next time.